Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Clay, and I am the Bucks believer. Earlier on tonight, free agency got off to a fantastic start for the Milwaukee Bucks as they were able to re-sign Bobby Portis on a discounted contract. Unfortunately, that great start could not continue as just a couple hours later, the news was broken that PJ Tucker would be signing with the Miami Heat. This is a huge loss for the Milwaukee Bucks for multiple reasons, and I will dive into all of those in this video. Let's start by talking about what PJ brought to the Bucks on the court. He was extremely important in the Bucks title run this past postseason, starting 19 playoff games after Donte DiVincenzo got injured in the first round series against the Miami Heat. Tucker played an incredibly key defensive role over the course of this playoff run, particularly in the second round against the Brooklyn Nets. He was tasked with the unenviable job of defending Kevin Durant throughout the entire playoff series, and he did about as good of job as any player in the entire NBA possibly could, forcing Durant to take incredibly difficult shots. KD was certainly capable of making those, and he did so frequently, but PJ made it as difficult on the Nets superstar as he possibly could have. Tucker was also quite good on the offensive glass for the Bucks over the course of this playoff run. In general, PJ isn't much of an offensive threat, and that leads to opposing defenses putting their weakest defensive link on him. Tucker was able to capitalize on this in multiple playoff rounds where players such as Trae Young and Chris Paul were defending him. Tucker was able to use his strength and physicality to get inside and push those players around, and that led to him finishing with the second best offensive rebounds per game number for the postseason behind just Giannis, as he corralled 2.1 offensive boards per game. In general, though, Tucker is most impactful on the defensive end of the court, and the Bucks certainly will miss what he brought to them this past postseason as a big wing defender, taking on matchups throughout the postseason on guys like Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant, Bogdan Bogdanovic, and Devin Booker. Now that we've discussed what the Bucks are losing with Tucker's departure on the court, let's get into the specificities of what the new contract that lured him away from Milwaukee consists of. The Miami Heat signed Tucker using a portion of their full mid-level exception, inking him to a 2-year, $15 million contract with a player option on the second season. This is a gigantic deal for a Heat team that had already hit a home run earlier in the day, signing and trading for Kyle Lowry. This gives the Heat a big wing defender that they have lacked since the departure of Jay Crowder in last year's offseason, and if Tucker can rise back to his career rates as a three-point shooter after struggling this past season in Milwaukee, he will give the Heat one of the best five-man units in the entire NBA, consisting of Lowry, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy Butler, Tucker, and Bam Adebayo. This is a monster addition for the Heat and a major loss for the Bucks. It makes the Heat a real contender to win the Eastern Conference next season, and for Milwaukee to lose a starter on a championship team to an Eastern Conference rival is certainly a bad look. It was rumored that the Bucks offered a 2-year, $20 million contract to Tucker, and that he turned down this superior paying contract in favor of playing in South Beach next season. If this is true, then the Bucks actually may have dodged a bullet. Tucker is 36 years old and is a very ineffective offensive player, and he shot a career low 33.6% from beyond the arc. That actually wasn't a career low, but it was his worst percentage in the last 4 seasons. That type of player is not worth paying $10 million per year for, but if the Bucks were able to sign Tucker for a deal closer to the 2 years, $15 million that the Heat got Tucker for, then it is a definite loss for them and makes the ownership look very cheap that they were unable to bring Tucker back on that number. I guess the last thing to discuss here is what this means for the rest of the Bucks offseason. First of all, they must use their taxpayer mid-level exception to sign Tucker's replacement. There are still a few solid options to play this role left on the board, as Otto Porter Jr. and Paul Millsap both remain unsigned. In addition to those types of players, the Bucks also have already taken a step towards replacing Tucker, signing Semi Ojeleye to a minimum contract for next season. Ojeleye isn't as good of a defensive player as Tucker, but he is still very physical and very big and capable of defending those big wings that Tucker was guarding throughout the course of last year's postseason. Overall, this was a tough move for the Bucks as it made a rival better and it made them worse. Now they really have to nail their next move in finding Tucker's replacement, as they also do not really have too much trade flexibility, as Tucker was really their only mid-scale contract that they could have potentially moved for another rotational piece. Now the Bucks are probably left with whatever their roster looks like following the conclusion of this offseason, so it's imperative that they make the right decisions the rest of the way here. Thank you all for watching today's video. I hope that you thoroughly enjoyed it, and if you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe, especially if you are a fellow Bucks believer. This is the place for you. Also, let me know in the comments section down below who you think the Bucks should look to target as PJ Tucker's replacement. Also, let me know whether or not you believe that the Bucks offered Tucker the 2-year, $20 million contract. Personally, I have a hard time believing it, as I can't quite see Tucker leaving a higher paying contract in favor of a lower paying contract simply because of climate reasons. That would be pretty shocking to me overall. Thank you for watching today's video. I think that I've covered everything that I wanted to cover, so that's going to be it for me. Ladies and gentlemen, I will see you all again very soon.